Oh, hang on. Hang on. Technical difficulties. What is up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Looks like we got at least Eldor in the chat. Looks like Oz's thing fell off. That's funny. So no first. Technically, Brick would be first now that we've opened the show.
Eldor's here. He's one of my favorite people, so that works great.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. And then Ken from Toy Connections, he said that he's going to be out, but he wants us to have a good show. And Brick decided to call an audible and take his kids to Guardians of the Galaxy 3. You know, honestly, if the choice was between me and Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I might have to go with Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I'm just saying. What is up, Adam? How are you doing, sir? Thank you for joining us. Lawrence is here. Lawrence has decided to join us. So, Mr. Chris, how are you today?
I am doing well.
Good. All right. I want to kind of talk about this. So give me 1 second to pull it up here. Yeah, share screen, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. I want to talk a little bit psychology, sort of. Now, this is a comedian. His name is Don McMillan. He does these little Venn diagram. So we're kind of talking about, I want to kind of define what I am, what you are, what we are. So let's look at this. Okay, if you have a high IQ and you're socially awkward, you're a dork. Okay? If you're high IQ and you have an obsession, you're a geek. Interesting. If you're socially awkward and you have an obsession, you're a stalker. So that's confusing. So, but if you have a high IQ, you're socially awkward, and you have an obsession, you're a nerd. So where do you think you qualify in this? Are we both kind of in the nerd category here?
Yeah, I think so. I doubt my IQ a little bit, but I'm not sure I'm a toy stalker. So,
well, the one that confuses me the most is the IQ and the socially awkward. So you're just a dork. Okay,
sure,
got it. I could be the dork. See, but in order to move from dork to nerd, I just have to have an obsession. So obviously, right. I was a dork prior to coming back to toys, and then I became a nerd. So I guess that's how it works. So. Yeah, I just thought this was funny and something I had seen the video on Instagram a couple times, and it just makes me chuckle every time. So I just wanted to talk about that. I just thought it was funny. Okay, so hang on. Move back to this. Come back here. We'll just stop sharing for a minute. Go that way. Thank you. And got a little question for you. What did you pick up this week?
If I was thinking I would have them with me, I picked up this week the basically everything McFarlane Flash multiverse.
Really? Everything?
Everything came in. I had it pre-ordered, so I got the Batmobile. I got all the 7-inch figures, including Unmasked Keaton. I got this week.
Which Flash do you like more? And there are two Flashes.
There are two Flashes. I like the look of the streamlined suit, but there is such a dumb detail on the Batsuit Flash that I secretly love it to my core.
Really? What is it?
It doesn't have a joint at the top of the neck.
Really? So
it's the Batsuit, so it has to turn like that.
Okay. All right. And it's definitely unique. I didn't see that in the sculpts, but I guess. All right. That works, I guess.
And it's the only figure in the wave, so it's got to be on purpose.
It has to be. There's nothing that most of those, that's always kind of done on purpose there. So let's see who else we got. Oh, there's Mr. Cobweb. Hello, sir. Oh, hang on. Oh. Buddy's got to dig on Bobby somewhere. Oh, poor Bobby. He's crying at home right now. No, he's not. He's sending Bud pictures of middle fingers right now. Mr. Modern Torfair is here. Thank you, sir, for coming in. Appreciate it. All right. Well, my pickups, little less complicated. I didn't get much this week. I still have stuff that I haven't opened up from last week. It's ridiculous because my piles just keep getting bigger. But I had to get me a Strucker. I had to. This was not a. This is one of those things that I have to complete my Hydra set, and this one made me twitch if I didn't get it. I went ahead and bought him at full price. I wasn't going to wait for clearance because, the chances of me getting him at that point is slimmer.
Fair.
They had a kids toy wonder something or other. It's a place out in New Jersey, and they were having a pretty good sale. This was $10.
I've ordered from that place, and it's weird. It's sketchy, but they've delivered. So
yeah, it seems really sketchy, doesn't it? You're
Yeah.
like looking at the website and like, oh my god, this website is horrid. What is this? I got a Rey Mysterio. I don't know why I bought this. It was $6. I was like, yeah, $6. Why not? I can use it for parts. And
They're
then
fun.
of course I got my land shark that I had been looking for and paid about $13 for it. So I was trying to be cheap, at least moderately cheap anyway. So it was kind of silly. So all right, so I want to come back here. We're going to share screen, and all right, we're going to talk about your collection here. So I kind of notice up here we've got some Power Rangers.
Yep.
Okay. Funko, is that Doc Brown?
It is a Doc Brown.
Okay. What's that back there?
It's the Doctor Who.
Okay. I couldn't read it.
It's the 10th Doctor.
Okay.
And to be fair, this picture is about 2 years old. So a lot of this is still in my collection. It's just...
It's been moved.
It's been moved.
So, obviously that's some Black Series there, isn't it?
Yes. From that point forward, it's all Star Wars on the top shelf.
Okay. All right. Hang on. Let me get down to the middle one here. All right. This looks like it's all DC.
That's all.
Now, do you have the multiverse, the Mattel multiverse, or just the McFarlane?
I have it is a big mix.
Okay.
Yeah, mess is fair too. So I do have on my shelf a mix of Mattel, McFarlane, Toy Biz, Hasbro.
Okay. So is that a Killer Croc?
That is a Killer Croc.
That's a Mattel one, right? Or
Yeah,
is
that's
that
that's the final wave Build-A-Figure Killer Croc.
All right, I'm just trying to dig on this collection here, see what we got here. Got some fascinating stuff. All right, and then more DC. Apparently, you like either Wally West or Zoom. There is that Zoom.
That is Zoom. That's the Flash section of that shelf.
So I'm assuming the Flash is one of your favorite characters. Am I just taking a stab at that one and saying that's accurate?
It's not unaccurate. I would put him, as like a top 10.
Okay. And obviously, here's your little Marvel section of Captain America's.
Yes.
That pretty much it there? Captain America's, maybe?
The Captain America's, there's a couple movie characters.
Okay. All right, cool. And then, of course, down below, you got your Black Series TIE Fighter?
Yes, I actually did sell that. Probably not for a lot of money because it was really hard to move.
It's really big.
It is huge. And
now you're making me worry about my Robo Skulls. Just a smidge.
So, I listed online thinking no one would buy it, and I would get messages all the time like, you're charging too much for shipping. Like, I'm not. I'm really not.
Yeah, no. We had a shipping disaster this week, and I was like, oh, that hurt. Thanks. I was anticipating it being a little bit more. Okay, so Miss Carol has joined us. Thank you, Carol, for joining us. So, all right. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And I want to talk about when you were a child what were your favorite ways to play?
I was definitely like a click clack, smash them together type.
Yeah.
Um, I remember vividly having the GI Joe base, with like the jail cells
The
and
headquarters.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, the headquarters. And Cobra and GI Joe would have fights, and I'd bloody their faces with a crayon because I could wash it mostly off for the
Uh,
next battle.
yeah.
So they got better.
Yeah.
Things got better. But yeah, it was a lot of imagination play as a kid. If I could go back and do that as an adult, I would be so thrilled.
Did you mix scales? Did you care about how if they were bigger or smaller than each other? Did it bother you if you had to mix GI Joe with, Masters of the Universe or superpowers or?
I was pretty anal retentive. Everybody kind of stayed to their own universe.
So is this shall not pass?
Yeah,
You're like
like
Gandalf.
GI Joe is now done. Now Thundercats can come out.
Now I'm moving on to the next toy.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, you had a very particular play pattern then.
Yes, I stayed to the universe. I created my own stories in those universes, but they stayed in universe.
Okay. So I want you to think about those feelings that you had when you're playing as a kid. And when was the last time you felt that way as an adult?
This was the hard question. This was really, really the hard one. And I'm not really sure if I've had that same sensation as a kid. That same kind of like sense of self creation and wonder by playing in someone else's sandbox.
Okay.
That same way.
What about, let's say, I can have one. I have one particular image recently of watching a toy YouTuber going. Um, it was when Jay got his Ghostbusters proton pack HasLab. If you watch that video, there's a moment in it where you can just see that little Jay coming right out. So was it not that way when you got yours? Let's say you got your Batwing. Did it not make you feel remotely like that?
It didn't.
Oh,
I will say though, for sheer sense of like toy wonder, anytime I open something like this truly unexpected, I do take a step back. Like I think the last time I really felt that was the Super 7 Bebop.
okay.
Because I bought it on like super sale. Like I think I got it for like $25.
You got it for what it should be priced. So
right.
let's be realistically.
And I took it out of the box live on a stream and I set it down and I'm like, oh, it's a big chunk of plastic. And then I just got kind of silent because I'm like, I don't know how to convey like how cool this is.
Yeah. So it brought you back to that childhood for a moment. So you did have one of those moments as an adult.
Sure. Yeah.
I think I think we glance over them because they are that raw emotion and we kind of ignore it. It's kind of there, but it's kind of like, oh no, that's not what I'm really feeling. I'm feeling this. I think we overanalyze it instead of just be in the moment.
But yeah, I do find whenever I get just a big honking piece of plastic that I'm kind of always in awe. Like even I just have a stack of stuff nearby because I'm disorganized, but like the Bane from McFarlane.
It's fantastic, right? I like it, but I would love hands that I could actually, I want some fists. I want some fists.
Fair, but I can break a bat with these hands.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is they have the other Bane that they came with the Last Night on Earth set.
Yeah, the Build-A-Bane, yeah.
Yeah, well, I got that as the box set. It was like $70 for the whole box set. I was like, I'm not passing that up. I got that. I got the Batman Beyond one, and I got Suicide Squad. And all of them were roughly about that $60 to $70 range.
Sure. Which is smart because buying those as they come out is bad for the wallet.
Yeah, the Suicide Squad one, I saw some people were trying to get a couple $100 for it. I'm like, that's ridiculous. It's not that great. And the fact that you don't get guns with it, the whole WB thing, it's just whatever. Yeah. You're going to give me a character who's known for holding guns in Peacemaker and another character. It's just like, come on.
But you know what's nice about that is they sold King Shark right away on his own.
Yeah, I was tempted to get that one, but I was like, yeah, I'm good. I got another one. I'm good. I got King Shark. I don't need another one. That's
I
kind of
bought that one, and I desperately want to put a hood on him to just make him more like the Harley Quinn version.
Give him a hoodie.
Yeah.
Well, we have Miss Allison joining us. Thank you, Allison, for coming in. Appreciate it. So, all right. So, I want you to. We kind of glanced over when the last time you had that feeling, but what activities do you feel like give you that kind of joy?
Well, of course, there's the rush of the hunt. Whenever I go to a store looking for something, you always get that like mainline like rush of going through things and trying to find the things like you did as a kid.
Dopamine hit.
That dopamine hit. Otherwise, I started mountain biking a couple years ago, doing a little bit of that. So there's still some childhood joy wrapped in going over a scary rock on the bike.
Who doesn't love a bicycle?
Right.
Honestly, that's fun stuff. So, I want to talk about your childhood toy lines.
Yes.
So, what were the toys that you loved as a child?
Well, I'm a child of the 80s, so I fell for every Saturday morning cartoon line. Every single time. Like,
didn't we all? We were like programmed and sold before we even got up for breakfast.
Right. Like, I vividly remember as a child, I had a hard time gaining weight. So, like, there would be a chart for every, 5 pounds I gained, I would get a reward.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it was like a Silverhawk action figure.
Yeah.
So, there's that.
Silverhawks. Those were cool.
They were cool. Bluegrass was my favorite. He was a rock and roll guitar bluegrass country guy. It was cool.
I was always Quicksilver, so it was just, gotta go with the leader.
I'm 90% of the time leader guy, so.
Yeah, no, so what other lines? We got Silverhawks. What else?
Silverhawks,
what ones were the ones that were, let's rank them for you. Give me the ranks of your toys here.
Okay. Number one, Kenner Batman toys. I don't want to differentiate between Batman the Animated Series and Dark Knight Collection, just because I love them both equally.
No, they were good toys.
Yeah. Then probably the Toy Biz X-Men. I remember having just tubs of them.
Oh, well, I mean, you got at least, a Wolverine and a Cable in every round. So,
right.
I mean, I like Wolverine and I like Cable, but I don't need a new one every 6 months. But, I guess to each their own on that one.
Sure. Then I would probably go Masters of the Universe.
Okay.
And a big part of that was when I was real little, we didn't have a lot of money, and my mom worked at a secondhand store, and so she would bring home Masters of the Universe toys that someone had donated.
Yeah.
So I till about 5-6 years ago, I probably had garbage bags full of them that I just never claimed, and they're probably somewhere in a dump now, unfortunately.
Masters of the Universe for me was kind of it's in my top 3. It was number 2.
Sure.
I had all of my Masters of the Universe figures until I was 17. I had to donate them to charity because my mom decided she wanted to move in with her long-term boyfriend, and they weren't going to keep my stuff while I was going to college.
Yeah, so, my master stuff and my GI Joes, which we'll put as the next level, were in probably 4 or 5 giant black garbage or lawn bags in my parents' attic, and my dad lost the house and didn't tell me.
Oh no!
So
that story is about tragic as mine. I mean, that one, my ex-wife, we were having a garage sale. Now, I put the I don't want to sell them prices on my GI Joes, mind you, including my flag. It was the I don't want to sell this. No, don't sell this. Yeah. So what she proceeds to do is she sold everything I own in GI Joe. She got $75.
No.
Yes, and this was in '96, so it wasn't like they were hugely valuable at that point. But yeah, 75
Right.
bucks. And I was just like, really? That's what you went with? So yeah, no, I get it. I mean, there's those toy lines from our childhood. They permeate till today. And you think about it, they are evergreen. They just keep
Right.
cycling back. It may be a different manufacturer, it may be a different person who does it, but they cycle back. I mean, it's really interesting to see that. And maybe it's just because it's me looking at it differently as an adult. I can look at those, I look at some of those toys and I'm like, yeah, I played with that toy, but man, what was I thinking?
Well, yeah, and it's funny because like I think of like the Masters of the Universe toys I really liked, and they're kind of like the garbage toys of the Masters of the Universe. Like the guy who formed into a rock, I'm like, yes,
There you
loved
go.
it.
See, but Stone Dart. I mean, those guys were great.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
cool. They were different. I like the meteors. I don't understand why. It was toward the
right.
end of the line. And it was just them throwing crap against the wall to see what's going to stick. But it was weird stuff. It was good stuff.
Yeah, I, I shared the story on my review of the Mythic Legions Mephitor, the
The
Skunkor
Stinkor
homage,
homage. Yeah.
Stinkor. When I was a kid and we moved to this town, my parents just got me the Stinkor. We threw it in the moving truck, and when we finally got to town, opened the back of the truck, everything smelled like Stinkor.
Patchouli. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice, 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 nice.
So
Yeah.
toys, yay!
Well, you could have had Moss Man and it would have smelled like pine. You would have been fine
That's
then.
true.
Your patchouli's got a whole different rankness to it. All right. Well, Oz has shown up and said, hey, he's not late. He arrives simply when he means to. So we go through childhood toy lines. So what about currently?
um,
We kind of glanced over it, but I know that that's a couple years old. So let's go over what Chris gets right now for himself and what makes him the most happy.
right now, McFarlane DC Multiverse, and it's just because I'm a DC guy. If Hasbro got the license, I'd be telling you that I love the Hasbro DC toys. I just follow that license. Um, then I would have to say the Masterverse toys. That just kind of sucks me into childhood in a way, just kind of seeing those sculpts again.
It was weird when I saw them for the first time. When I saw that Revelations, He-Man, and Skeletor, I would swear I was 8 years old in Christmas of '82 and tearing into that first He-Man package. It was very it was very nostalgic, but it was also new. So because it has that nice 21st century articulation,
Right.
and we don't have the you know singing arms and the little rubber band in the crotch.
And I would say probably three right now. The third line for me, shockingly, weirdly, is probably AEW figures from Jazzware.
Really. Well,
Um,
I guess you are a wrestling fan. Yeah, I get it.
I
Yeah.
That's fairly recent for me in like the last year coming back to wrestling. And I've been buying a lot of like the YouTube toy personality figures
Interesting.
because so many of those guys who are wrestling are just us but buff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what is it about those specific lines that you're collecting right now that speak to you?
I will say for the first two specifically, DC Multiverse and Masterverse, is they're doing what I've always wanted, which was what I thought the toys should look like when I was a kid.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it was cool. I had Robin, and he looked like he did kind of have the comic books, but he couldn't move his elbows, he couldn't move his knees. He's always kind of stuck doing this thing with a giant
Yeah.
gun.
Yeah. Squeeze the legs, make them. Do you find yourself wanting like action features?
No,
You're-
no,
you're-
not at all.
if I look at a certain type, like with McFarlane Superpowers, I get that it's like, yeah, I kind of want an action feature, but I get why they're not doing it. I mean,
Right.
but it's fine. But it does. That's probably why I leave them in on card, because they're going to go up on a wall whenever I find a space for them.
Sure.
Because they have that nostalgic. That's one of the reasons why I'm both in card, or on card, and opener. I like some things that give me that childhood nostalgia. So, any collection rules? What does and doesn't make it to the collection? Because we know you just bought a $240 Batwing. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what
I'm
doesn't
sure
make it to the collection.
my wife is watching, and I want to clarify right now that I did use a discount code. Saved a little bit on that Batwing. But it's gonna rocket me to the moon. That Batwing. The rules of collecting are loose and kind of not as solid as they should be. But like DC characters, I typically want comic representation, mainline comic representation. I don't death metal Batman is not something I need.
Okay.
Sure, it's cool. I actually have him because I bought the Batmobiles and somebody has to sit in it.
Well, I mean, I got all of those figures, the death metal ones, with the exception of the Batman Who Laughs and the Three Crows. I got all of them for about $8 each. At that point, it's worth it. It's like, yeah, it's cool. It's cool looking. The Superman is cool looking. I like the sculpt. The side eye doesn't really bug me. It's whatever. But yeah, no, those something different.
But yeah, that rule flies out the window the minute something goes on discount.
Well, you know what? Clearance is my current bane of existence. I literally have stopped going to stores because I will go directly to a clearance aisle, and I probably will buy something that I don't really need just because it's there. And then I go and I buy this shit.
Right.
I'm like, why did I buy this? I don't want this. I didn't really want it, but I do want the parts. So I guess it's working out. But
last year I bought a Plunderling because it was on sale, and it's super cool. But I bought it because every toy collector in the world was talking about how cool they are, and it was on sale. So I'm like, well, I better not miss out. FOMO.
You know what? It's a painful thing, right? I mean, you don't want to be the last person to get it, and you don't want to be the person who missed it and you want it. It's weird. That's kind of you have to give yourself a minute there. I want to take a second to welcome Attorney and Ellipse. Thank you, Sir Clifton, for joining us. So, inbox, out of the box, both, neither.
Mostly out of the box now. There was a while in my 20s where I was inbox because I thought that's what I was supposed to be doing as an adult collector.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh, it's nerdy and people think poorly of me for buying toys, but if they're in a box, then I'm a savvy collector of goods.
Yeah, toys as an investment property is probably not a good retirement plan. I always worry too much about that, but like my inbox stuff is there for a reason. It's 100%. I walk into that room and I see those walls. It brings me back to walking into a Toys R Us or walking into a TG&Y, which is what we had here, or a Venture, or any of those places that I had as a kid, where they just literally had a wall of action figures on pegs. That brings me to that moment. That's, I'm not keeping them on card for, I'm going to get, $12 for $4 figures 6 years later. I mean, I did for a while because, I was like you. And then my Power of the Force 2 figures, very few of them were opened. They were all in package. My X-Men, Toy Biz X-Men, vast majority of them were on card, never opened. And then when my son got of age, I said, you know what? I went ahead, I looked on eBay, said, they're not worth enough to worry about whether or not he gets to play with them. I opened them up, let him play with them. Played with them for about 2 weeks. So, that lasted, that whole renaissance was 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, this is great. Thanks. I did all this for nothing. Appreciate you. And then they just sat in a bucket. And I did the same thing with my first run McFarlane stuff, the first Spawn figures, the couple all the way up to Wetworks. I think I had a few of those earlier, the first 3 or 4 years of McFarlane Toys stuff that I just let him open up. I mean, we still have the werewolf here. I sent a couple pieces to Dom from Toy Domination because they just didn't fit in my thing at the time. Now they would, but they didn't then. But it's fine. I don't need them. I don't have space for them. They literally sat in a big, large Tupperware space. So it's one of those things. So, what are some things that you'd like to do with your toys that you currently don't?
Oh, I would love to, like I said earlier, be capable of imagination play. But it's just not there. I talk about this just in various different platforms with different things because I have friends who are way into martial arts and have their black belts or whatever equivalent in their study is. They're like, why don't you do it? Like, I can't commit to the bit.
Okay.
So like,
it's hard to let go and be silly. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, okay. I can be a jackass on YouTube, but but in my own private time, I'm like, no, sir, I will not.
I will not debase myself with this toy. No, sir.
Right. You want to play Dungeons and Dragons? No, I cannot. Why not? Because I can't picture the forest.
Yeah. I think we have to kind of get back to that, though. I mean, if we end up taking ourselves too seriously, we're kind of missing the point.
I think there's 100% a lot of that, but I think also part of my problem personally with that is just mental health.
Yeah.
Because, I have pretty severe depression, got some good anxiety, doing some new treatments for it that are going really well. But like there's still forever that piece of my brain that's going like, but they're going to laugh at you.
It took me a long time to get to the point where I just don't give a damn. I'm going to try to be fun. I'm going to try to have fun. Yeah, I might look silly trying to make do a setup for a photograph, and I'll be cursing 5 ways from Sunday because those figures will not stay where I put them, no matter how hard I try.
I tried
stick them into the ground, and they're still going to move.
I tried to do photo photography, and I quickly learned I do not have an eye for it.
I didn't think I just kind of go for it. I wing it.
Yeah.
I just throw the shit together and wing it. You know what? I buy, I go on Amazon and they have these backdrops that are for terrariums.
Yeah.
And they fit magically, wonderfully on the foam board or cardboard if you don't want to go get foam board. And
a foam board's cheaper than cardboard. That's crazy.
Yeah. But they look great as a backdrop. And you just have to angle your camera a little bit differently, like down or up or near. You're good.
I have the Extreme Sets Alley 2.0.
Yeah.
Backdrop, and it's really cool. But it's kind of big, and I don't know what to do with it.
That's the other thing is that where do we store all this stuff that we do all this stuff with? Space danger is real, but when you add in the fact that I do customizing, that I do toy photography when I ever get a chance to do it, there's not as much time, not as many hours in the day that I would like to do that one with. And then you add into, the collection and the general, add in this now, which is another time consuming thing that's, let's prep this. Let's do this prep for 5 days. I'm glad it's a week between because otherwise I'd probably go insane. But
yeah,
I wanted to say hello to Alberto Morales. Thank you for joining us. You are a new face. I appreciate you joining us. But yeah, no, I think we as adults we we spend too much time in our head,
100%.
and we're recycling that critic. You know, I I had this thing that I was doing, and it was a thing that I used to do at my job when I was the clinical program coordinator and when I was an expressive therapist. I would have the patients do what's called a physical representation of barriers to whatever they were dealing with. So they might draw a wall, they might draw a window, I wanted them to put out the things that they think were real difficulties in their lives. And we would put them up on a blackboard and we would talk about it. So, what do you think, besides obviously that recursive negative thinking that you have about letting go? What's the worst that could happen should you choose to play with your toys with abandonment and joy?
That's a great question, and I'm sure absolutely nothing would happen. And I know that, but I'm also like, I'm like, oh, but it sounds so exhausting too.
Well, and it can be, but you just gotta
Yeah.
relax. It's
Yeah.
toys. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be fun. Don't take it too seriously. It's supposed to be fun. Enjoy your toys. That's what they're there for. They're there to be played with.
Yeah, I have nieces and nephews. I don't have kids, but I have nieces and nephews, and when they visit, they like to look at the toy collection, and their parents are like, "No, don't touch." I'm like, "No, you can touch. All I ask is please let me know what you want to play with, because they probably haven't moved in years and could use a hot bath before."
Yeah, or it's like, please don't pull from the back.
Yeah.
Please don't pull from the back. Get from that back line. It's the end of the world because everything's coming forward at you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, in psychology, we do this thing sometimes. There's not very many people that use it consistently enough for it to be a thing, but I'm going to co-opt it and kind of reverse it for toys. So if we call it the magic question in psychology, it said, if all of your problems went away today, what would you do? So in this case, it's going to be co-opted for toys, very specifically. If price and space danger weren't an issue, what would you collect and why?
So if we're talking specifically toys,
Yeah,
I would be collecting specifically Hot Toys and third-party unlicensed 1/6 action figures.
okay.
And it's solely because I own 2 Hot Toys. One I gave to my wife and one on my shelf. And it's like they sucked the soul of the character and trapped it in a doll, and it's probably screaming to be free. It's
exorcism on your toys. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that it's the twist ending to Are You Afraid of the Dark? It's not some really terrible end, but it's still a pretty terrible end. Like, now you will live forever among your toys. Like, I don't want to be a toy. They're just beautiful and just stunning.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Now, if it wasn't toys, I'd tell you it's cars. I would have so many cars.
Well, you gotta have priorities, right?
Right.
Toys, cars, 250 versus 50, 60, 70, $80,000.
Right. And
up to $500,000, couple million, depending on the car you really, really want.
And I'm not even like a super car guy. I just like really neat looking cars and super dorky cars. I owned a 3rd gen Prius, and I would rant about how neat it is for hours to any poor soul who would listen.
That's all right. You know what? I think people will find that. So, hang on. Let's see where I was at here. So, favorite all-time line you said was Batman, right?
Kenner yes, Batman? It's got to be Batman. Yeah,
the Kenner figure. Favorite all-time figure.
favorite all-time figure. Um, as a kid, it was probably the Ninja Robin from Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, okay.
And it was just because it wasn't comic accurate, so it broke that rule. I even had as a kid, I wanted my toys to look like they did on the show or in the comics. But I picked that
So,
one
so
up,
your
and
rules are more of suggestions. Maybe you should just change the name from rules
my
to these are
suggestions.
suggestions for my collection.
But there was just something about that costume and unique, and I think that was the first unique Robin sculpt in that line.
Yeah.
Because the first Robin they put out was just the Batman Returns Robin with a different head sculpt and a lighter color palette.
Yeah, no, don't get me started on those. Those were weird.
Like, why was he so ripped and no one else was?
Hey, you know what? It doesn't make any sense. Neither did Power of the Force. When did Luke get buff? I mean, really, come on.
Right. Well, on some of the early promo posters.
I mean, it was one of those things. It was weird that there was kind of like this. I almost want to call it like a Motu in reverse section because Motu was always that weird ripped. Every character right. had that same buff. The females all had the same buff. But when you get to the 90s, you start seeing those other toys doing it. It's like you had G.I. Joe Extreme. Did you ever see those toys? Oh.
There was just a Secret Galaxy about G.I. Joe Extreme.
Yeah, those are awful.
Yeah. But I do remember that Robin being the first time I realized what reuse really was.
Yeah.
Like, I got every Batman's basically the same Batman with a dumb paint scheme.
Yeah, you get a different accessory. This is Batman with a light. This is Batman with a gun. This is Batman with that.
But it was the first time I was like, wait, this is supposed to be a completely different Robin. Why is he the same? Yeah. So
they like to mess with you. All right, we got a couple of new people, Shannon. Hey, Ted, thanks for coming. Appreciate you being here. And of course, Thanos Copter, thank you, sir, for coming in.
Yeah.
Is there any time or any line that you would like to see be made with modern design choices? Any vintage line?
Any vintage line I would like to see with modern.
Yep.
You know what would be a fun line to see with modern articulation, I think, is Captain Power.
Oh, interesting. So, will we have like a Build-A-Figure for Captain Power for that one?
I don't know. But I just remember the dumb gimmick. I don't think I ever saw anything more than the promotional VHS tape for it. But I had the jet with the figure, and you're supposed to shoot the screen.
Yeah.
And get your points. And in today's world of app-connected toys,
oh, it was ahead of its time, but you can't.
Kill.
What's funny is you can't use it on any of the. You have to get a CRT TV.
You have to have a CRT. Just the same reason for the zapper.
Yeah.
And it's all because of there's a black square in the refresh where the target is.
Yeah, and it was ahead of its time. It was probably 10 years too early. I think it would have done better if it had been timed differently. I think it would have been a little more unique at that because it was really different for the time, and I just think it didn't hit.
Right.
And that mix of live action and CGI was kind of a different thing for television at the time.
But yeah, I thought those toys looked cool. They had a fun feature.
Lots of vac metal.
So much. Which completely off topic, but I just want to say a modern toy line that has too much articulation is Transformers.
You know what? Transformers has always had too much articulation. I'll just tell you that straight up.
But,
if it takes me 3 hours to transform one toy, I'm done. That's why I get the core class. It's like 5 or 6. I only got to do 5 or 6 things. I'm good. I'm good at that point. I don't need 25. I'm good.
I figured out I can still idiot my way through vehicles. Okay, without seeing instructions, I can still transform most of them. But the updated Beast Wars stuff is a nightmare, and they had it right the first time.
I don't. I try to stay away too much from like the animal forms. I do like my Dinobots. I'm getting all of the core class Dinobots. Not that I'll ever take them out of the box, probably, because they just don't fit anywhere. And they look good on my wall, so I'm weird like that.
Yeah.
We have Jeremy J visiting us. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming here. All right, so now we're going to talk about our some McFarlane stuff that came out this week, or at least the previews. And let me get back to here. And let me go over here. All right. So we got this Batman. Now, realistically, I'm looking at this Batman and I am seeing. Hey, come back. I am seeing a Mythic Legion kind of Batman looking thing there for me. I mean, I kind of want the Batman. And you know what? I know Todd just does nothing but give me Batmans.
Todd really gives us
dig this one.
All the Batman except the Batman I really desperately want. An a-hole.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's kind of what it is, right?
Right.
My three Jokers Batman, which to me is my definitive Batman. I don't need the light blue, the powder blue.
Yeah.
But he has 2 left feet.
Oh no. You know what? I bought one just for customizing bits, so I will probably drop a foot in the mail for you.
So I was just like, this is great. But yeah, I pulled it out of the box. I got it for $8, so I'm not
sure.
too worried about it. I mean, it wasn't like I spent a fortune on it.
Yeah, I picked it up for the belt for a Keaton Batman because the belt is perfect.
Yeah, I don't get that's Batgirl. Why does she have pants?
Because us.
Batman doesn't have pants, but she's got a loincloth and pants.
Well, maybe it will explain it in the included comic book.
It's just a weird design choice. And then we have like pseudo samurai Robin.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure the comic will make sense. I haven't read that one yet. So
well, it's an original for these toys.
Oh, okay. So they didn't do well, hang on. Let me go back. Is it the same? Oh, no, they're different comics.
I think it's the same comic with different covers.
Oh, so it's making me buy 4 if I want all the covers. Okay.
They did the same thing with the Page Puncher's Aquaman wave.
I'm only getting Black Manta. I may get Aqualad.
I got Aqualad and Black Manta.
He's tempting me. I know I would just put him with my Titans anyway. And
right, and he fits in
Impulse too, but I think I'll just wait till they go on clearance. But this Mr. Freeze, I like it and I don't like it. I like it because it's really, really different. But if I'm being honest,
right. You pointed that out.
He is Big Daddy. he just needs a drill arm instead of a freeze gun, and it's Big Daddy.
Easy custom for somebody out there.
And it's an easy custom for the most part. I mean, that's what I see. Or the Scooby-Doo, and when they had the guy in the full rebreather suit.
Sure. Yeah.
It's different, and I kind of dig it, but I also at the same time I see that and I can't unsee it now. So I just can't. It's cool,
but he's got a really sweet freeze gun.
I do. I know that is so tempting just to buy it for the backpack and the freeze gun, just to take it off and use it on my other freeze because I don't like his freeze gun at all. Because I got the other one that they just did, and I don't like the freeze gun on it. I just don't. I don't like that they put the effect in the gun, so I can't separate it.
Yeah, and I think that was pleasing Warner Brothers. in their gun rule.
Yeah, I know.
I kind of wonder if that is now under the Discovery. The
I let's hope
approval
they
happened.
change it. Let's hope they go a different direction because
Yeah.
it's not really helping. Now, here's the other thing that came out. These are all going everywhere now, finally.
Yes.
So hopefully that will be good for the line, not bad for the line, and we won't see them clearance out everywhere because at the price point, you can't really beat it for $10.
I'm trying to decide how many of these Robins I need.
Well, it's a very classic Robin.
Right.
I mean, you could technically get away with making him for 3 of them because legitimately, for you got Tim Drake, you got Dick Grayson, and you got Jason Todd. All 3 of them wore that similar kind of outfit with a little bit of modification. You could make it all 3 of them.
Yeah. This is the like anal retentive in me. It's like, yeah, but those are Tim's gloves. Only Tim wore those gloves. Okay. But I mean, I think I need 2. One for the
minor
shelf.
Modifications. You could, like I said, you could make them all 3. Okay, and I do not like this Aquaman.
I don't, but he's purchased because I'm a completist
He's
on this line right now.
He's smiling, Chris. He's happy Aquaman. I don't understand that.
It's because he's in superpowers before the Joker.
It's just wrong. He's happy-go-lucky. All right, and then we got another Wonder Woman. I do like the shorts better on this one than the other one we got. I don't like the cape, and I still don't know why we don't have a lasso.
Yeah, that's lame.
I would rather have a lasso than that cape, if I'm being completely honest. If it's a parts switch, just give me the lasso.
The thing that bugs me the most about this Wonder Woman, because I have the first release, and I'm gonna get this one too, because I can't help myself. If she has, right? Yes, if she has a sword holding hand and a shield hand, give her a sword and a shield.
There you go.
They're molded for it.
I would prefer the lasso of truth, but
But that would be a way to be like, this is modern Wonder Woman. Original superpowers had your lasso Wonder Woman, so this is at least a way to kind of try to differentiate.
Yeah, I got you. All right, then we got this thing that sold out ridiculously fast. I don't know if it sold out on McFarlane store, but I'm sure it's probably not with the pack that he's selling.
I will tell you, I bought that pack because 10% off.
Yeah. No, there's no reason not to when you're getting that good deal. But I mean, it's cute, but I do know that translucent plastic is not your friend.
Right. I humble brag here. I was having a conversation with a McFarlane employee earlier today about this and asked them point blank, is the hinge better on this than the Superpowers Batwing? And they were like, well, I don't know if it's better, but I was playing with it and it was fine. So it's like, well, that's hope, because I don't know anybody who got that Batwing, hit the button, and didn't immediately break the canopy. Like, because they just built that hinge like a moron for some reason.
Engineering fails.
But yet it's perfect on the Supermobile. Fails.
What about you? Yeah, I know. I like it. I think it's cool, but I mean, it's one of those ones that I think a lot of people were really, really waiting for.
Yes, absolutely. I want them to do something like this that's a little bit more spaceshipy and green for a Green Lantern vehicle.
That would be cool. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. But I also want a Hal.
Right.
And then I want a guy, and then I want a Kilowog.
For me, Kyle's got to be up there pretty quick.
Yeah, I need a Kilowog, and then I need a few others, and
I also want a Jessica. It was a Jessica.
I have a feeling we're probably going to get closer to the Legion of Doom and Superpowers faster than we will in the regular line. Because I would really like to finish off my Legion of Doom sometime soon.
Yes. Fair enough.
I love Adam's comment here. This is hilarious. Forgive my ignorance, but why is the jet invisible? Wouldn't it look like Wonder Woman was flying? Well, technically, when she's in the jet, she would be invisible, Adam, but okay.
Except
I see his point.
that joke has been made 1,000 times in 1,000 different mediums.
But it's great. I love it.
It is.
It's the joke that keeps on giving. Oh, hang on. Go back. All right. So stop sharing for a minute. And we're going to go back here. All right. So, is there any time that you see yourself not collecting?
No. So toys aren't my only collection. They're my primary collection.
It's not your only collection?
No.
Oh, no.
I'm a football jersey collector.
Oh, really?
So I have a jersey for every team in the NFL. And then I'm in the just okayish state of Wyoming. And I have several jerseys that were team issued from the university here.
Oh, okay.
So, I've got some from their bowl appearances that have their patches and everything and the tears that have been sewn up from the game on them. Okay. So there's that. I had a lightsaber building phase.
A phase?
A phase where there was a couple years.
Does that really ever end? I mean, let's be honest there.
Well, I stopped spending the money because even to build on the cheap was still like $100 and some bucks.
Oh yeah, no, those are ridiculous.
And then I would also say, well, I'm a often reoccurring Gundam builder. It's a habit that just keeps coming back. I relapse every couple of years.
It's the dirty secret that hides in the closet.
It's like, oh, Gundam Wing was sweet. That was, high school. And then like a couple years later, like, I'm bored. Gundam model? And then it's just like a phase. Like, I should watch Gundam. I'm watching Gundam. I should build a model.
It's that cycle, right? It's that I've been sold to and I don't know that I've been sold to.
Well, it's 80s brain. It's permanently built.
Yeah. A couple new folks showed up. John from Figuratively Speaking is here. Thank you, sir, for coming and joining us. And Jim from Largo's Lair. Thank you, sir. So, now we can't really ignore the elephant in the room today. We got two things. We got Happy Cinco de Mayo. Yeah, whatever. I'm not that, whatever on that one. But for me, it's Revenge of the Sith Day.
Yeah.
So, with that said, we had this private conversation earlier. You said, and I quote, I don't really have any Sith that I like.
So,
except...
and you already showed the picture, that's fine. So the thing about the Sith is they all look really cool, but I'm a good guy. I like my Batman more than I like my Jokers.
Oh, no, hang on. Oh, go back. Where are you at? Where's she going? Was that her? I don't know. Where did it go?
There she is.
That's her. All right. I thought it was right. So this is your one Sith character that you like?
Yes, I like the designs of many, but if you ask me what's a Sith character I like Asajj Ventress. And it's the story arc and the behind-the-scenes history of Asajj.
But you neglected to talk about the biggest one of all.
And I have Vader helmets all over the place, but the truth is, until the like Disney era of Star Wars, Vader was coasting pretty heavily in the mainstream media on reputation.
Okay, all right. Now, we didn't talk about this guy because I guess somehow I numbered him wrong in my photos. That's fantastic, but I'm excited about him. I like Black Manta. This is okay. It's not great, but it'll work perfectly with I'm not getting
superpowers,
so I guess I'm gonna have to figure out who he's gonna be fighting because it's a good thing they're staying in the card. All right, hang on. Go back. Fat finger in that one. All right. So obviously, Knights of the Old Republic for me.
Yep.
Darth Malak, Darth Revan.
And
Those are my boys.
I will
Really,
say,
really.
like, from Coder 2, Nihilus had the coolest look.
Yeah.
That mask is iconic.
There were so many. They had a little bit of freedom to take those because there wasn't any. I mean, the designs alone are cool. I love that. Love those designs. Really, really cool stuff.
But you gotta kind of, like, in retrospect, he looks like a helmetless Vader crossed with Baron von Underbite.
I could see it. I could see it. But again, that.
Sure.
That is
clearly cool. He had a lab partner that did him wrong.
All right. I'll give you that. But I'm sorry, but I don't have Palpatine on here because he's always kind of annoyed me, and he always had everybody else do the dirty work for him. So
right.
All right, we'll get out of that. So
years and years ago, they had the traveling costumes of Star Wars exhibit, and I saw it at the Denver Art Museum, and I will tell you, I still remember they had the photo of the early concept Darth Maul that turned into a Asajj Ventress.
Mm-hmm.
That image just lives rent-free in my head for some reason.
Well, I mean, I kind of liked her when they did the shorts for the Clone Wars. That was cool because it was she was just angry and angst ridden, and it was interesting to see that. And then we had Ted. Yes, he does work smarter, not harder. But you know what? He died and had to get reborn, and somebody had to stick him in a tank, and he had to get a clone. Let's get all convoluted, all right? The toy that we need? We need Palpatine in a tank smiling at you.
I promise you, some custom somebody has made it. It exists, it's out there, and it costs $150.
Yeah, it'll be that way, right? It'll be that way. All right. So I've kind of gone through all the questions that I had, but I do have one. Oop, that's not what I need. That's what I need. One last big question for you. What did you find joy in today?
Today is Friday, and first the weekend. That's everybody's lazy answer. So again, I talked about my mental health and stuff. So I'm doing transcranial magnetic stimulation right now.
Okay.
And my appointment for that is during the last hour of my workday, so I always get to leave early.
Okay.
And today, being Friday and being the NHL playoffs, as soon as I got home, wrestling was on. So I got to immediately watch wrestling, and they had the dumbest looking match I've ever seen.
So that's joy.
Yeah.
So my kind of challenge to you overall, after this conversation, yeah, Ted's saying if he ever clones himself, he's making the younger version, not the old raggedy version that I am now.
I just assumed that clones rapidly aged and it didn't go well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I was going to clone myself, I kind of did. That's why I had kids, I technically have a mini me that's 4 inches taller than me because apparently he got his grandfather's height. My wife's father was 6'8".
So to be fair, we know there was young clones because Rey is the daughter of one of those clones that wasn't force sensitive, and when she kind of remembered what they looked like, it wasn't a raggedy ass old man.
Nope, it was your man. So it was it's an interesting concept. It was really Dark Empire kind of brought that to the forefront because that was kind of the thing for Dark Empire when he was trying to seduce Luke and almost did, but of course that's no longer canon. So
I was never an EU guy, so
yeah, so it's one of those things. So my kind of challenge for you after this conversation, and it's this is my therapist side.
okay.
It's going to be. I promise, it's not going to be bad. It's not going to be horrible. But I want you to practice letting go of that critic in your head that says somebody's watching you.
Okay. All right.
That this is odd. This is strange. This is not something. Play with your toys. Bash them up. Act goofy.
Sure.
Dance like nobody's watching. It's good advice.
It's great advice. I'm sorry, 30 Rock popped in my head, so it happened.
but the thing is that I think we as adults we get so wrapped up in that I have to be the adult that we forget what it was like to be a kid and to play like a kid and to be happy with it. We just have to find the joy in every day, and that's kind of I'm glad you came on, and I'm glad you're talking about your mental health and dealing with it. I think one of the things for the longest time is I spent a lot of my life in denial of my issues, and my daughter started working on her issues, and we kind of had a moment where I kind of realized that some of the things that I had done instinctively, not as a way to, damage that relationship or hurt her as a child, because it wasn't that way. She assumed some things that weren't true, and we had a conversation, and it got better. But there were some things that I was ignoring. Once we address that problem, we move forward, things can get better. And I think for me, toys represent that very specific thing that allowed me to kind of get out of my head for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is I'm doing, whether I'm fidgeting with this on the desk, whether I'm opening it and playing with it, this, what we're doing right now is not natural for me. I am a massive introvert.
Sure, fair.
And I can be mildly extroverted at times. I mean, I was a trainer in a positions multiple times, so it wasn't like I don't have the ability to talk to people. I just hate it, and it makes me anxious, and it gives me anxiety. But the more I talk, and the more I do it, the more I relax. And it's one of those. It's a practice kind of thing. You have to keep practicing. It's kind of like letting go in your head. You're going to have to practice letting go of those critics and the critical thoughts that are coming, like, oh, I'm playing with a toy. I'm not supposed to do this. Yes, we are. They're toys. They're supposed to be fun. We're supposed to have fun with them. I think some people forget that this is supposed to be fun. If we're not having fun, why are we doing it? Right? That's the strangest thing. If we're not having fun, why do we do it? I think that's one of the reasons that after I saw kind of what was out there in the toy marketplace, all these people producing all this stuff, and I kind of saw that I can do something different. So that's kind of where this started. It's strange, but the more I thought about it, I can play on my background. I can play on what I do with toys. I can bring people on, and if they feel comfortable enough to talk about what's going on, we can talk about it. If we just want to talk toys, we can just talk toys.
Yeah, I'll be perfectly honest. One of my favorite things about becoming a YouTuber, which I use so loosely with my 206 subscribers,
Hey, I'm at
I see
70.
you.
I'm not up there myself.
45 days ago, I was at 70, so don't worry.
We'll see.
Batwing.
We'll see. I might scare off some people. They'll be like, I don't want to come on your show. You're gonna make me talk about painful memories and shit.
And there's always been a part of me, even though I'm an introvert, I've been a bit of a performer throughout my life. I've done theater. I was a card carrying thespian in high school, and I was in a
a state qualifier in poetry my junior year. I did not go back to drama for my senior year. I qualified for regionals 3 times, freshman and sophomore years. So I can act. It's not something that makes me comfortable.
Yeah, and I get that. But what I was kind of building to is one thing that does bring me joy about being a YouTuber and specifically being a toy tuber is interacting with other toy tubers.
Yeah.
Seeing other people who are passionate about weird little plastic people.
You know, I think we have to find that passion. You know, if it's something that you're not passionate about, we call it stress. It's the same thing, but if you're passionate about it, it's really not stress. It's passion at that point. It's not that negative. It's different.
Absolutely. And to take that really nice moment, I'd like to remind everybody in the audience, if you haven't already, like this video, comment on this video, and subscribe to the channel.
I appreciate that. And
yeah, no problem.
Channel. Dang it.
Well, I just realized I still have my buttons.
McFarlane, there's lots of humor. Lots of humor.
I realized I still had my buttons, and I'm like, I gotta use my buttons, right?
Might as well. I mean, if it works, go for it. Now, if it had crashed the stream, we would have been like, oh, wow. You know,
well, it's all happening on my video, so it would crash me, not you. So, you can say, but Chris.
Exactly. But Chris, what are you doing?
Aren't you worried about someone else's YouTube channel? No. You know why? Because I still have a Batmobile.
Some of them don't.
And of course, my cover, this was filmed in front of a streaming audience.
Was it? Are there really streaming people here? Apparently,
supposedly.
People watching us. Yes, Adam, he's using OBS while he's in this, so it has all these fancy stuff.
Yes, I'm using my OBS virtual camera because I finally figured out a way to get it not blur everything.
You know what? If I could figure out it well enough to do it, I would use it. But I looked at it and I'm just like, I don't need another thing that I have to learn how to do feature-wise because I have I'm doing Photoshop, so I'm learning Photoshop, and then
sure.
I'm learning, Premiere Rush to do video editing. And don't get me started on that. Oh, when it doesn't transfer from my phone to the computer, it's like, oh my god, you're crazy.
I will say, this. So in high school, which was for 20 years ago, which is devastating. I was
I'm 30.
Yeah.
My 30th anniversary, or my 30th reunion was last summer. 30 years. Ooh.
So my sophomore, junior, senior year, I worked my way through the classes and was doing our AV club equivalent.
Mm.
And we would broadcast a cable TV show every week. So I learned Final Cut Pro 4 back then. So I'm using Final Cut Pro now, which is so dramatically different, but I do have some like ancient knowledge to work on there. And I am just a nerd. I'm a nerd. I'm a computer repair guy.
Yeah.
So working nuts and bolts and figuring out how things work is one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
And I've applied that to YouTube.
Well, I think for me, I like learning. So it's, but the thing is that there's a lot of frustration at the beginning because it's not as intuitive as I'd like them to be. But StreamYard is. StreamYard is fairly intuitive. Yeah, there's some user interface crap that doesn't work quite right, and it kind of makes you go want to pull your hair out. And of course, with me, pulling my hair out would involve a lot of work.
Sure.
Go break out the tweezers, see if I can get it. But it's an interesting thing. So I kind of like it, but it's different. I'm learning as I go. This is only my second true live. I played with the recorder on it a couple times just to figure out how things go. So, well, Adam, did you just like age yourself like a lot in 8-track? Really?
I have plenty of friends who did some 8-track recording. Yeah, most of them are digital now and too cool to talk to me. But
yeah, exactly.
It happens. Oh, do we need
everything's plastic collectible reviews? Someone say cheeseburger. No, we do not have any current cheeseburgers. Cheeseburger. No cheeseburgers here.
But Chris, you collect McFarlane, but not Hasbro heavily? Why? Because Hasbro sucks. It doesn't suck. It just costs too much. And I think their articulation scheme is stuck in the past.
Or it just doesn't have characters that you like enough to buy?
That's more. I mean, I still love Star Wars. I buy Marvel.
So what about comics? I mean, we've talked about toys, but I want to talk about, because you have a heavily DC influenced collection there. So I'm assuming you're a DC fan.
Yes. The problem with Marvel is I was reading during the Clone Saga.
Okay.
No, I don't say that. I liked it. I actually liked the Clone Saga. I think Ben Reilly is cool, and I stand by that.
Blasphemy. No. I'm not a huge Spider-Man fan. He's okay. I probably collected Spider-Man books a couple times in my life, but Peter, I get it. His hard luck. It gets to the point where that whole hard luck Peter it gets really kind of old. I mean, you give him a little bit of up, and then you just slap the crap out of him for 30 issues. It just kind of like, it's depressing.
So I'm a DC guy, and Rebirth, New 52 really soured me so badly. Because I loved Legacy. That was the thing I loved most about DC Comics, was you got to read about the next hero in line and what was going on.
Well, I think sometimes, and Dido was really bad about it. He would like reboot. He wanted to reboot the universe every couple of years just so he could, make it seem like, they're starting over. But it just, it kind of, I want to say there was some things in the New 52 that were interesting, but overall, I think the execution left a lot to be desired. I mean, Animal Man was great.
Well, yeah, I could jump on an Animal Man then and not worry about not knowing classic Animal Man.
Yeah.
Which I know is beloved and just people will rant all day about it, but it seems terrifying to jump on.
Yeah. Well, I'm more weirdo, so I'm Doom Patrol, that kind of stuff. Batman was probably my only one that I got, and that New 52 Batman stuff was fantastic. There was so much brought into it, and I know they didn't hard reset, and they kept kind of some of that when they moved over.
Yeah, and let's not forget, New 52 Batman gave us the Court of the Owls.
Yeah.
Which exactly. The idea of... Yeah, thinking about Batman without that component now seems silly.
It does. And it was kind of like, really, Lawrence, you don't know who Animal Man is? Go buy a comic, my man. Oh, wait.
A coworker just gave me a copy of Ambush Bug #1.
Oh,
Going
cool.
through his mom's stuff. She had a couple copies, so he gave me the worst one just as a
Of course.
gift, and I thought, like, that's cool. He's like, I don't know what this is. I'm like, oh,
You have no idea.
it was
Yeah,
Deadpool before Deadpool was cool.
exactly. No, I can remember as a kid. I mean, I am primarily Marvel guy. I'm going to be completely honest, but as a kid, I loved Firestorm and Blue Devil.
Firestorm is rad. Um, I so I kind of really read Firestorm with Jason Rush.
Yeah.
Like I was aware of the character, but I was hearing all the cool stuff that was happening over there, and thanks to the internet, I could just download things.
Yeah, exactly.
So I downloaded the whole series and just went through it. And I'm like, that is so cool. And so that's why there's at least a couple different Firestorms on my shelf.
Well, I mean, mine obviously was Ronnie Raymond because this is the '80s.
Right.
So for me, and then Blue Devil, I can remember that first issue where the mask gets stuck to his face, and then it just kind of snowballs from there. I did remember getting Vigilante, and I thought it was a little dark, but those were all in that kind of that 8 to 10 year old range for me, maybe when I was getting those, and then of course I found X-Men in the 160s somewhere in there, and I was hooked from then on X-Men. That's if I gave up any other comic, X-Men would be where I'd go.
Fair. That's 100% fair. X-Men I fell into because of the animated series.
Mm.
You know,
Well, the
Return to
animated
the
series
Toys,
actually
which
brought me back. So
sure.
I wouldn't I quit collecting probably. I mean, I had He-Man comics, I had Thundercats comics, I had all of those Star comics. I think I had a few Crystars, and I had GI Joe comics. Obviously, GI Joe #1 line for me. So there's GI Joe comics. I had all of those as a kid, and then at some point, I stopped collecting. Probably, mid-teens. I was working out, doing all the stuff with school. Doing sports, doing drama. It just wasn't comics weren't a big thing for about, I don't know. I want to say till I was about 19 or so,
Sure.
and it was
Yeah,
right about the time the death of Superman happened and Nightfall happened. It was right around that time, and those two got me back into DC, and I was just eating it all up at that point.
I was probably third or fourth grade when that was.
Yeah.
Put that
So
age gap on it.
yeah, Legion of Superheroes would hurt me right now if they did figures for it. Also, because that was that time that I just absolutely enjoyed that. Um, there's so many figures that I want from that kind of '90s to you know early '90s to mid '90s.
Sure, and it's not fair that that's basically what Mafex is producing.
Oh well, yeah, no, it's bad. I have the Poison Ivy on the Hush Poison Ivy on a pre-order.
Sure. I've
I
so far skipped that one because I have the DC Signature series.
Yeah, so I want it, and I'm gonna buy it, and I'm gonna be okay with it because when they Nightfall Batman came out for McFarlane, I couldn't find one anywhere near me. In the
I
seven, I went to 6 or 7 WalMarts that they said it was at. Not a single one of them had them at. And
I
then,
ordered it every single day. It said it was on in stock, and finally one stuck.
yeah, I just
And
at some point it was just wasn't worth it. And then I go on to eBay and look at the prices. I'm like, if I'm going to spend $80 on a McFarlane, I'm not going to spend $80 on a McFarlane. I will spend $100 and I will get that Mafex one. It's probably one of my favorite figures.
it is beautiful. And specifically the unmasked John Paul Valley head sculpt looks like it popped right off the page.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's they're in the way that the joints hold, the way that they move. There is something very different about you can feel the quality in it. I mean, if you compare it to, you know, yes, McFarlane's don't have thigh swivels, but no human has thigh swivels. Really, if we want to talk about thighs, they really should have ball joints in the hips that would rotate
So,
around, and you could see it. And you know, it could be inside the leg. That would be more realistic.
and
But
they're trying to do that. It just works like shit.
yeah, have you seen figure arts? Their legs.
Yeah.
That's how that does it. Then they
Um,
got the rotating butt that goes forward and backward. Yeah, it's awesome.
right. Um, you know, I see Largo here saying too many crisis continuity problems in the 90s. Yes.
Yes, yes. 0
Um,
hour. They tried to do the reset, and it was like every year, and it just got broken. And then the whole thing is that they did Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. All three of them had something that was like significant where they were no longer that character. Because you got
be
Artemis
fair,
replacing Wonder Woman.
Flash had that too, and so did Green Lantern in the 90s.
Yeah, eventually. And then they made made Hal insane, but I could understand why.
Right, no, it was fair. That's fair, but that spun directly out of Death of Superman.
Well, I know, but it was like, hey, we're just going to do it all. Let's reset one at a time and see what happens. What's the worst can happen?
Right, let them fall. Oh, and let's not forget Green Arrow died.
Didn't they forget Ollie for the most part?
Yeah, well, and but I bring that up because I think I can remember one of my favorite comics of Hour era is Robin Zero, when
Okay.
Tim teams up with Dick.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's specifically like Dick Grayson is super good at everything. Like he's doing flips, taking down the bad guy, doing some sweet stuff, you know, and he's like, nice costume, like the pants, but leave this to the professionals. And
Yeah.
Tim is just like, ugh. Has him do the hand scanner and goes, it's Dick Grayson. I don't know how, but it is.
Yeah.
But I love that issue because it is 100% why I love Tim Drake. And it's because he was the tryhard.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
while
he's the only one that figured out Batman's identity. So we knew that he was smart.
Right. Like
Not
there's
very
a
smart
bit
when he confronts him with it, but you know, hey.
So like there's a panel where like Dick is doing a triple somersault from like one catwalk to another,
Yeah.
and Tim just throws a batarang and like swings across.
Yeah.
It's just
there's that. There was that definitely. They always had that kind of older brother, younger brother,
right.
better than you, and that was always good about that relationship.
Right. It's specifically with older Dick and
Yeah.
I'm gonna just keep saying Dick like it's a natural thing. But seeing brash young
If you said
Dick,
Richard, it would be confusing, and then it's broken at that point. So
Right.
I don't know.
Rick, we're talking about Rick, the cab driver.
It sounds like Dick, but it's Mr. Brick. He's come to say hi for us. But yeah,
He's a real brick.
Yeah, yeah. But no, those. I think there's some gems in there. Yeah. Geff. Allison was talking about Geffen era Legion of Superheroes. Yes, very much. Yes.
You know, I had some of the
for a while. There was just fantastic.
I had some Justice League stuff for a while there, but the like revisit series that they did in the early aughts are just phenomenal.
Yeah. And there's also some of those that came out of that kind of. I mean, I do like the Authority. I'm glad that they're going to make a movie of it, but I think it's going to shock the hell out of everybody because it is not going to be what they expect. If they've never seen it, not the people outside of the comic, but outside of the comic world that knows what that is, I think it's going to shock some audiences.
I promise you, the first time Midnighter and Apollo make out, they're going to lose their minds.
Yeah. Lawrence is bringing up a point. Yes, Bane figured out who Batman was, but technically, Tim did before Bane did. So
It's true. Well, you got to remember what Tim's master plan was
yeah,
to get Dick Grayson to be Robin again. Like, that was the goal.
yeah,
He rolled into the circus and went, Batman's having a hard time, so throw on the elf shoes and get to it. And he's like, that's cute, kid, but I'm a man.
exactly. I'm not putting that on you. No, I don't know. For me, I don't. Comics have always been one of those things that kind of transitioned for different periods of my life because I can remember I stopped collecting probably I want to say 97 somewhere in there the first time, or actually technically that would be the second time because I stopped as a child. So and then I picked it back up probably 2004 and I was doing DC and Marvel and the Johns, Justice Society, Kingdom Come, all of that stuff was just
It was a hard time. You don't understand what it's like to be a man. That, please forgive me.
But yeah, no. And then there was some of that, and I had to go back and read New X-Men because I hadn't read that. I got that in trade. I'm glad I missed the Chuck Austin run on Uncanny. I've read it. I have it in trades. It never gets pulled out. It's an abomination that should be burned from my forever. From it's bad. I mean, there's some bad times, but I think the '90s was just it was everybody was trying to do that next. I think really what set it off is we saw the spike from the death of Superman, then Nightfall, then Wonder Woman, then Green Lanterns, and all of those books kind of went up, and what they were selling. So then we saw that kind of, oh, now we're just going to do it, and then Marvel got on, started doing multiple crossovers and all that stuff. They were doing it with Mutant Massacre, which was kind of the first try at it, but it was kind of always loose. It wasn't quite, oh, well, you had to read this and this and this. Well, then now we got to the point where it was you had to read this and this and this. And I love those crossovers. They're great, but, if you're not.
Well, and there was a bad habit in that period where if a character started to dismal out, they would reconceptualize it very quickly.
Yeah.
We went through like the death and return of Superman, the mullet phase. And then they're like, oh, it's starting to die off again. What can we do?
Let's make him energy. Yeah, I know.
And I had that comic because I'm like, oh, shoot. There's a brand new Superman that's going to be around forever. I was a kid. I didn't know better. It had a glow in the dark cover.
Yeah, and it was fancy. We had all those gimmicky covers. I can remember the Superman that had the what are those things, Char? The little plastic things that stick to stuff. Oh my gosh, the word is gonna it's color something or other. Color forms. Is that right?
Sure.
The little ones they stuck to the cover with Lobo. It was a comic about Batman and Lobo, and they had like those little color forms that would stick to the covers. Did you ever get any of that gimmick? That was
I don't remember that. I remember during the death of Superman, there was some pseudo holographic
die cuts. They were die cuts. They were like it was like double ply cardboard, and the inside of it would be like the symbol of Superman, and the outside would have the.
Well, there was one specifically where it was like Jonathan Kent was having a heart attack and thought he was seeing his son, and like the cover had like a weird
probably
ghostly image of Superman.
Yeah, the '90s were all the were all the gimmick.
Well, and you had the speculators because they found out like all these old comics were worth something, and they were worth something because everybody destroyed them.
Well, yeah, and I kind of got into that at that point. I'm part of that speculation issue.
You know, so the funny thing,
bought one to read and one to stay in the package.
sure.
Oh, that theme seems to be recurring in my life because that's the way my Joe collection is. There's one in a box and one that I play with.
But the hilarious thing is, the more valuable comic now from that era is issue number 2.
Yeah, because they didn't sell as many.
Right. They cut the orders way down.
Yeah.
You print 10 million copies of X-Men number 1 and maybe 600,000 of 2.
Yeah, no, those are some ridiculous numbers at that point. I mean, it was a matter of time before that bubble burst.
But to this day, I'm 90s character super fan. Like, give me any character who was in the original Young Justice comic book.
Yeah. There's some good stuff in there. It's just a matter of finding it.
Right. I mean, the issue that focused on Impulse, where no one said a single word until like the last page, is just, again, another thing that's burned into my brain.
Well, I mean, there's a really good comic that's X Factor. It's Peter David, Joe Quesada drew it. It's it's examinations. I cannot remember what number it is, but basically it's all of them are getting debriefed by Doc Samson. And Quicksilver has a perfect explanation for why he's always a jerk. He says stuff like, you know that person that you're standing behind at the ATM and they don't seem to know how to operate it. Now imagine you're behind that person every day, all day. I mean, that's a perfect encapsulation of kind of the speedsters. I can only imagine that that's what their lives would be like.
Right.
Is everybody else is moving at snail space.
Did you read Starman at all?
The Robinson stuff I picked up a little bit here and there, but not enough to really get more than a few issues here and there.
You know, I came back to that later in life. Just because, somebody was like, yeah, okay, Sandman's a masterpiece, but have you read Starman?
Yeah.
And again, downloaded, I think, a torrent of every single issue and just powered through it in a week. And just what a beautiful start to end single creator series.
There's so few of those now. Most of the stuff that you're going to get that's like that, you're going to get. I got into Saga from Brian or Kieran Gillen. Sorry, my brain is a little fried. But those kind of singular focused, where the writer has a beginning, middle, and end, and it's good. There are some that kind of limp out of the gate at the end, so you get a few of those too.
Right.
But those kind of books that are just, you don't expect them to be good. You just like, why not? What's the worst that could happen? And I started reading it and I enjoyed it. And I'm probably going to end up buying the omnibus when it comes out at some point, because it's one of those books that I want to have on my shelf. So I mean, there's so many good storylines. It's like the Ed Brubaker Captain America, up until Bucky takes over that.
So I jumped in on that with the Bucky replacement, and I read that stuff and I enjoyed it because, again, it goes back to being kind of the legacy fan.
Yeah, it wasn't that it was bad. I love that self-contained 25 issues.
Sure.
There is something about how and you get the occasional crap that they have to do for their annual crossover, but that first 6 issues of that is probably some of the best writing that Cap has had since Mark Waid did it in the 90s. Because there was a nice run of Mark Waid right before Heroes Reborn, mind you. That was
damn Onslaught.
There's a issue with Red Skull that's just basically him saying every dirty little thing in his head, and it's fantastic. But we are at an hour and 40 minutes. Good grade. We've been way longer than I was expecting. But you know what? It's been fun. It's been good. We talked about your challenge and we talked about what we should do. But any final thoughts so we can let these people go back to their, Friday night?
No, it's ours now. I'm sorry. I refuse to go. No,
It's like 3 more hours. No, Ted. No, Ted. I am not
no,
Oz. I have to sleep.
no, this has just been a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to try to take on your challenge.
I appreciate
We
you
will
coming
see
on.
how that looks.
Yeah, but you know what? Let go.
Yeah.
That's my best advice: is let go of that critic in your head. It
Well,
owns
and
you until you.
to circle back to the thing I've said 1,002 times. I'm doing that TMS right now,
Yeah.
and the thing that 2 weeks in that has happened is my inner monologue essentially has died at this point,
It was good.
and so I've got the critic is silent, and I'm not sure what to do with most of my time at the moment. But
Well, now
so
you know you got
it, there's
toys. Start
there's a
playing.
chance. There's a chance.
Start playing with your toys. It's time. It's time. They're sitting over there and they're crying in their little plastic things, going, "He doesn't play with me anymore." Imagine his
I never played with you. You're all dead.
Exactly. I am not going back here. You cannot stick me in the back. You cannot put me in the corner. No. But I appreciate you coming on. I do have some advice for the people in the audience, and it's very simple. It's one of the things that I challenge myself to do every day. And I got to go back to this. Find your joy in every day. A small joy, a big joy, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. But find joy in every day in some way. Um, but that's really all I got. Besides, be kind. If you can be anything, be kind. Everybody have a good night. Say bye. You can raise our hand, say bye in broadcast. There we go. And again.